And we're back with another episode of Before You Buy, that show where we give you some straight-up gameplay and our first impressions of the latest games releasing. As usual, it's me, your guide, Jake Baldino, and today we're talking about Half-Life Alyx. I'm really excited to be talking about this one. This is straight up the next Half-Life game. It's exclusive to VR, and that is a damn shame because that means not every Half-Life fan can experience it the way it was supposed to be experienced, and I'm not going to make it easier though because it is absolutely the best VR game I've ever played. And like I said, it's a real Half-Life game. It doesn't feel like a cutesy spin-off or a tech demo or really a cash-in or a waste of time. They go all in on this. And Valve is really here too. They show up, from the impressive technology, of course, to the quirky puzzles and hilarious, clever dialogue. I'm just glad this all came together. Now, before we get going, keep in mind, mild spoiler warning. I'm showing mostly early stuff to avoid spoilers, but if you're extra sensitive, the game does have surprises around basically every corner, so be warned. I would say if you can't play it on VR, watch a good playthrough online, maybe, preferably someone not screaming over it, because it is really good and really immersive, even still if you watch it. My bad gameplay aside. But you can play Half-Life Alyx on most PC-based VR headsets, and I played via an Oculus Quest plugged into my PC via the Oculus Link. Now, it works pretty flawlessly, despite a bit of hardware deficiency on my end. You might see some dropped frames here and there in this video, but keep in mind that it seems like that's not the normal experience here. I've spoken to a few friends on similar setups who had no problems. I just have notorious bad luck with PCs. Anyway, Half-Life Alyx takes place a few years before the events of Half-Life 2, where Gordon Freeman shows up in City 17. You play as Alyx Vance, who's 19 here and working for the Resistance, and also directly with her dad, of course, Eli, who you'll run into a few times. Now, what follows is a very Half-Life adventure through City 17 that feels new, but familiar in the best ways. You see amazing new angles of the city where the new graphics definitely fill in some of the blanks that the old Half-Life 2 just couldn't quite detail. But despite that, it doesn't lose the thread here though. It still feels distinctly Half-Life, and this still feels like City 17. And the new characters, both human, Vortigaunt, others, they all just really work here. There's familiar enemies and some interesting new spins on them as well. The thing that really blew me away right away was seeing the ceiling barnacles. The way they look, the way they animate is so true to the original games, but enhanced with new technology and graphics that it actually almost gave me chills seeing one puke up guts up close in high fidelity. Now, the one thing I didn't expect is maybe I had way too high of expectations, but Half-Life Alyx doesn't really reinvent the wheel, at least not in some ways. The movement options are all there, and each one works pretty great. I don't know why I was hoping that Valve would reinvent how movement works, but that's too big a task. I chose to move around freely with the joystick on my touch controller and snap left and right if I need to change directions. That's pretty advanced for the average user, of course, and I notoriously get motion sickness in this mode despite having my VR sea legs. But with Half-Life Alyx, Valve, I guess, just did a great job of optimizing it here because I feel great. And plus, the traditional point and teleport or blink mode also works great and seamless here. No frills, and again, nothing we've really never seen before, but just really well done here. Now, once you get used to moving around, you get the magic gravity gloves, which allow you to grab stuff from a distance, which is definitely the ace here. This is where Valve got really clever because it solves the problem of, tediously picking stuff up, which you can still just do that, but really the main flow is you reach out your hand and flick your wrist to kind of propel something towards you, and then you have to catch it. So I hope you've got some practice with catching stuff in VR, or else this is gonna take you a few minutes, but it's so much fun. It makes things so much less tedious. And thankfully, the tracking is really great for everything else, like grabbing stuff, rummaging through cabinets, and storage stuff for extra ammo is really great. And never in a game have I ever been able to so easily and accurately grab drawers and doors and open them quickly with perfect control. Once you get used to the language of movement and grabbing stuff, it all just feels really polished and refined. At least for the most part, you still know you're in VR because it still has a few flaws. Obviously, there's no way around it. Sometimes you can get stuck or your hands do dumb, weird things, and going up ladders just doesn't really feel right in this game and often kind of freaks out. So, like I said earlier, Valve isn't the complete cure for VR, but it comes really damn close. And yes, I have played Boneworks. Don't get mad, VR fans, but like I wasn't crazy about that. Actually, to be honest, Alyx is one of the first single-player VR games of a decent length, other than Boneworks or Vader Immortal, that I really wanted to stay in VR and keep playing because I wanted to see where it would go next. Most VR games don't have the budget or the resources to keep things this interesting and well-paced for so long. Usually I find myself in a game going, okay, all right, cool guys, I get it, whatever. And I get bored after a while, like once the novelty of VR wears off. But Half-Life, I couldn't stop here because, number one, the story and the world is interesting and gorgeous, but two, all of the gameplay elements are just so much fun. Shooting feels great because you can get a little creative and use the environment to your advantage, other than just exploding barrels. Fighting headcrabs is great when you can pick up a garbage can lid and then block them and fend them off Captain America style when they jump. And the game didn't tell me to do that. I was just in the world and intuitively figured it was worth a try, and I picked up a garbage can lid, and it worked. Fighting the Combine gets intense because the shooting feels good, but when grenades are involved, they're really fun to prime and then toss around, and the shooting feedback does feel great. Every gun does have its own little fun quirk to it. Usually the way it's like reloaded or something like that. Popping a shotgun shut after putting slugs into it is so much fun. Pulling out ammo for your pulse rifle thing or maybe your pistol and slotting it in feels satisfying. And of course, taking out a Combine soldier is all the more better when you get that familiar death sound effect from the old days. It's just so sweet, dude. But thankfully, as I mentioned earlier, there are tons of new enemy types and some good tweaks on old favorites that require you to think a little bit more and sometimes aim a bit more carefully. The game does give out weapons and abilities and stuff at a nice pace, and the same goes with upgrading your weapons. The game rewards people who are very observant and explore every corner of the environment and find little collectible resins to grab and save up to spend at certain points to fabricate cool stuff to upgrade your guns. Burst shot, more ammo, laser sights, that sort of stuff. It just makes the game substantially more fun and usable, I guess, but also just makes the guns look cooler too. I've seen some people say the game is only good if you have a bunch of room and can do room scale in like a big ass room, and I totally disagree. I play the game in a really small space, and as long as you can stand up, spin around, maybe duck, maybe lean a little bit or a very small step in each direction, you're good, man. It's not really different than any other VR game. Being able to duck into a vent shaft or duck behind cover is great. I do it a lot, but you can also blink to stuff, and there's a dedicated jump and mantle feature that works really well as well. Anyway, I love the puzzles too. There are these ones that you do that are quite often involving your multi-tool, which requires you to follow power lines and get intimate with the immediate environment. But then there's also these fun little puzzle mini games that you use your multi-tool just to like unlock random stuff. And they're incredibly creative, and maybe they outstay their welcome a little bit, but I just think they're awesome with how Valve thought of them. I like doing them. But with most sequences, what helps is the sense of scale, too. The Combine soldiers in particular, when you see them searching for you in certain sequences, maybe you crouch behind a crate or something, that's where it really is convincing. It feels like real dudes searching for you, and you can actually hide from them. Now, the AI isn't over the top. To be honest, I think many sequences of the game are a bit on the easy side, but not terribly so, and thankfully the game does get harder as it goes on. The second half really picks up and goes kind of from like a bunch of the Ravenholm sequence to the Half-Life episodes in terms of feel, if that makes sense. Plus, like I said, they go all in, basically right from the get-go. This is the next Half-Life game and has interesting lore and new stuff that works really well. It's got some incredibly scary, straight-up horror moments that were absolutely terrifying when you get the flashlight. There are fun moments of sci-fi wonder, there's some charming cleverness, and outright hilarious and memorable moments and stuff. I really hope as many people as possible can experience this game. It's one of the best playing VR games. It's got one of the best stories, it's incredible looking, and most importantly, it's still fun. And it's not just VR fun. It's straight up like a real game with nice linear progression, big story moments, upgradable weapons, some collectible stuff, some face-to-face character moments. This is all a really big win. Now, like I said at the start, it's a shame. It's a huge shame that it's exclusive to VR, but at the very least, it supports multiple headsets, not just Valve's new Index headset, I guess. That's looking on the bright side, but still, Half-Life Alyx is really, really fun, and I highly recommend it if you have the means. I hope this leads to more Half-Life stuff, more Valve stuff in general, because I forgot how much I miss their creativity, and not just Valve games, but Half-Life in particular, how creative that universe is. It was nice to step back in it again and experience some new stuff, you know? I'm just excited. Anyway, that's it before you buy. You know how this works. By now, I give you some pros, some cons, some personal opinion. Now I want to hear yours, down in the comments. Let's talk about anything Half-Life. Have you been playing Black Mesa? Are you a VR person? Do you like this? Are you on the outside looking in? Are you pissed? I get it. Have you watched a good Let's Play of it or something like that? Maybe recommend it for other people down in the comments. Stuff like that is really good to share. We'll be down in the comments as much as possible, but of course, things get a little crazy, so if you want to ask me anything directly or yell at me, hit me up on Twitter and Instagram at Jake Baldino. But, of course, you guys know clicking the like button if you learned something does really help us out. We do really appreciate that. And if you're new, consider subscribing, maybe hitting that notification bell, because we put out videos every single day. But, as always, thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next time.